Hello, we're here today, February 9th, 2019, at Nova Southeastern University, Orlando, to talk with the 43rd President of the Florida Association of School Psychologists, Ms. Lisa Coffey. Welcome, Lisa.
Good morning.
Lisa, you were president during some very interesting times. You were the last president of the 20th century and the first president of the 21st century. Did that impact your presidency in any way?
I think being that Y2K president definitely had some influence. There was a lot going on in the world related to that changeover and the impact that that would have on a various number of systems in our country. And so as I took office, we had that whole turn of the century and just movement into a more digital age. And I think that probably did have some basis for some things that happened during my presidency.
Well, you had mentioned to me earlier that your presidency was characterized by a couple of firsts and that you weren't actually present at your inauguration. Is that correct?
That is correct. I am the first president to have a baby while they were either getting ready to take office or in office. I gave birth to my son, Mason, October 17th, which was about 19 days before the business meeting where I took office for the Florida Association of School Psychologists. So that presented some challenges being having such a newborn. I wasn't able to make it to the conference itself. So we did some videotaping of my presidential speech for the business meeting, and they passed the gavel to me, and I spoke to the membership as we would normally do, but via video, which at the time was unique because that's right when we were doing so much live feed, and that was kind of a new thing that was happening with people being able to speak and do that live from another location, and was quite costly at that time. We didn't spend the money to have me do it live feed, we just did the video. So yeah, it was an interesting way to start my presidency.
Very unique, certainly. Before we talk about your tenure as the 43rd FASP president, could you update us a little bit on what you're doing right now?
Sure. So right now, I work for Orange County Public Schools. Mm-hmm. I'm the senior administrator for psychological and social services. So I oversee the school psychologists and school social workers in the district, mm-hmm.
with
2 other administrators. So we have 3 administrators that are responsible for our team of about 153 people.
Wow.
I've been in administration for the last 4 years, all of those in Orange County. And prior to that, I worked as a school psychologist for 20 plus years in the field. So I'm also working with NASP's School Safety and Crisis Response Committee. So I'm involved with that aspect as well right now.
Wow, very important. Could you tell us about what were some of the major events or accomplishments that took place under your leadership as president?
Sure. So, being that it was that, Y2K year, my message to the membership was about if better is possible, then good really isn't enough, and that collectively we all might work together to do a better job of having an impact on students in Florida. So I initiated Project 2000. So I brought the book to give to the historian, which was just a call to the membership to get involved, get engaged, and really show the work of school psychologists. What do we do outside of just counting evaluations? And so membership was asked to commit to doing a couple of activities during the year and then sending in evidence of those activities at the end of the year. And we collected all of that information and really showed the impacts of what we as school psychologists can bring to the table and can do outside of just evaluations. And it was a way that I wanted to help not only engage the membership, but also foster some leadership with folks throughout the state. So that was one big initiative and accomplishment that happened. I was fortunate, I guess, to have under my presidency the final stamp of 501c3 for Children's Services Fund. That had been established, but they hadn't achieved their 501c3 status yet. And so the association had been working, and just like in other years, work from one year to the next just goes. And so the final stamp of approval for that happened in February of 2000 for Children's Services Fund. And that was a great accomplishment because it really allowed the charitable, classification to get them to be able to get a lot more donations and really, continue the great work that they're doing. So that was another big accomplishment that happened. During my presidency, our legislative platform was all about safe schools and communities, and we partnered with school counselors and school social workers with their association and worked on some legislative bills that really looked at those aspects. And I think it was the Senate safety bill that came up at that time, which mirrors a lot of what's happening now, but that was kind of a focus of what was happening during my presidency, and one of the things we worked hard to make those collaborative efforts with the other associations.
So it is interesting that there are similarities with the issues during your presidency and today. It's continuing.
Yeah.
In spite of the great gains that you made.
Yes.
What would you say some of the challenges that occurred during your tenure were?
Well, the first one we problem solved out, not having a baby and not being able to make it to the conference. And then we started right away in my presidency with some conversations with FPA regarding the title of school psychologist. So I was so fortunate to have a board that was supportive and knowledgeable and looking to help. So I wasn't at the conference as those conversations needed to start happening. So I talked to people on the phone, and then my legislative chairperson and my private practice chairperson met with FPA and started those conversations about that title usage that kind of keep coming up over time. But it was that was a unique challenge to start right away with. And then my treasurer on my board had to resign for some personal reasons, and so we as a board needed to identify another person to take that treasurer role. So that was a learning experience. It was a challenge, but a learning experience. I learned more about associations and bylaws and how all of that works together. So those, I think, were the main challenges, perhaps, that came during that time.
And during that time, we weren't so computer savvy, so you had to do a lot more work hands-on. Is that correct?
Absolutely. We were moving into Y2K, but we did everything paper and pencil. Conference registrations, call for nominations, awards nominations, Project 2000, all of this was done just paper, pencil, forms mailed in, and now everything is so fast and easy, but at the time that was definitely a challenge. There was a lot of paper that happened during that time, reams and reams of paper that we used during that.
Those were the days when we still got our newsletters by mail too.
Yes, the bulk mailings of the newsletters, and even at our board meetings, we had papers. Everyone would bring their board reports with paper and hand them out to everybody.
Wow.
With copies. So you had to bring enough copies of your board report to share with the other board members. And so I'm very thankful that we've moved into an age where we're not wasting so much.
Right. We'll have to all plant lots of trees in honor of everything that you've done.
Yes.
So in addition to that, were there any other, say, environmental or personal or even political influences that occurred during your presidency that you might feel comfortable sharing with us?
I don't. I mean, I think the Y2K. I think the baby. I started my presidency. I had a 2-year-old daughter. I had my newborn son. I had a full-time job as a school psychologist, and I was a young individual. So I think the fact that I think if I wasn't the youngest, I was one of the youngest presidents of the association to take office at that time. So I think those were all things that, characterized what happened for me during my presidential year.
Right, and to keep it in perspective, how old are your children now?
So my son is 19 and my daughter is 21. And so the baby that I had is 19 years old. He'll be 20 in October. So it's been 20 years almost since.
Wow. And they're both in college?
Yes, my daughter is a senior at University of Florida, and my son is a freshman at University of Central Florida. So,
excellent.
yeah.
So Lisa, tell us what being the FASP president has meant to you personally.
So it was an honor to be able to lead this association. I am so grateful for the opportunity. I learned so very much. Things that I don't know that I would have learned had I not had the ability to take this leadership role. I learned things about school psychology, but I also learned a great deal of information related to organizations, legislation, and just organization. I mean, just organizing myself as the leader of the association. Things that you wouldn't necessarily think you were going to learn. I learned the importance of surrounding yourself with strong individuals that can help you lead, and giving them the ability to make decisions and help guide, relying on other people to provide information and gather a lot of information from different sources. It was an interesting experience as a very young professional to sit in front of a board of people with a lot more experience than I had. And I appreciate the fact that they helped and taught and supported me throughout that, because I think that experience really provided me with a foundation for so much that I have done personally and professionally since. Not only moving into my administrative role as a school psychologist and as a supervisor of school psychology, but also in work with my kids and being involved in their activities and taking on leadership and organizational roles with those activities to kind of help bring people together. So I look back at the time and think, wow, it was a lot of work. Mm-hmm. A lot of late nights on the phone or looking up things, but it was well worth it, and I am just really grateful that I had the opportunity.
Well, we're grateful that you were our president as well, and are currently a past president and still active in the organization. Is there anything else that you'd like to impart to us as our 43rd FASP president?
I think at this point, my feelings about how important it is for the membership to be engaged are still there. Our board does an amazing job of working for school psychologists in the state, and their work amongst themselves, they're well aware of it, but I think sometimes the membership doesn't understand or recognize all of the work that's done, and I just encourage people to get involved, get engaged. I encourage the board to reach out to membership so that everybody sees the value of what this state organization can do. We as school psychologists can do so much, and collectively we are so much stronger than individuals. And so if we can just get ourselves inspired by the work that our colleagues do, and if we can inspire our other colleagues to do better work, we will move our profession and just assist and support students. So.
Thank you so much, Lisa Coffey, 43rd President of the Florida Association of School Psychologists.